Hey everybody, Pastor Michael here, and welcome back to SGT Discovery Kids, where we discover every week what God is teaching us in His Word. Now, this week we have a very interesting story in the Bible. We're talking about Daniel again, and if you guys remember, we know that God gave Daniel the special ability to interpret dreams. Now, we've all had dreams before where we're sleeping in the middle of the night, and with our eyes closed and in the middle of our sleep, we start to see visions. Or maybe we've had really cool dreams where we could breathe underwater, or we could fly, or we could pick up really heavy things because we're super strong. Those dreams are a lot of fun. Sometimes we have scary dreams that we call nightmares, where we wake up and we're scared about the things that we saw. And other times we just have regular dreams, and sometimes we don't remember them because they're a little confusing. Well, Daniel had a very interesting dream one night. It was kind of scary, kind of weird, kind of cool, and at the end of it, God gave him the interpretation of what it meant. So in Daniel's dream, he was in heaven, and he saw four special creatures. One was like a lion, but the lion had wings, and the other was a bear that had ribs in its mouth. And then the other was a leopard with four heads and wings. And the last was a giant monster with horns on its head and iron teeth, and it was really scary. So Daniel had no idea what was going on. And as he's watching these animals, God himself comes over and he gives the authority of the world to the Son of Man. And Daniel's going, what does all this mean? This is such a weird dream. And then God gave Daniel the interpretation. And here's what he told him. He said, Daniel, these animals that you're seeing in heaven, they represent different kingdoms that will come in the earth. These kingdoms will be powerful and they will rule the world. But at the end of it all, I will give all authority in the world, all kingdoms in the world, and every king and person in the world, I will give them to the authority of my Son. And Jesus will rule over all the earth. Now, Daniel at the time didn't know it was Jesus, and he was confused as to what all this stuff would eventually mean. So he kept it to himself, but he wrote it down. And it wasn't until Jesus came, many years later, that we now understand what the dream means. We know that at the end of all things, Jesus will be king over all the world. And we, as Christians, get the special privilege of being a part of his kingdom now. And even though that dream was kind of scary for Daniel and a little weird, we get to be blessed by it because we get to know that whether it's in dreams, whether it's in life or in death, whether it's success or in failure, no matter what's going on or where we are, Jesus is our King, and we get to give him all the glory. Now we're going to learn about this now in the verse of the week. Mr. Iden, let's go to you.
Hey everyone, it's Mr. Iden, and welcome back to the verse of the week. We just learned about how God gave Daniel a vision, and in that vision, God told Daniel that there will be many kingdoms in the world, but that they will all fall, and one day God will give all authority to his Son. Now, Daniel didn't know that God was talking about Jesus, but we know that he's talking about Jesus. And when Jesus comes down to the earth, he says the kingdom of God is here. We read more about the kingdom of God in Daniel chapter 7, verse 27b. Now, you may be thinking, what does B mean? B simply means that it's the second half of the verse. Here's what it says. His kingdom will be an everlasting kingdom, and all rulers will worship and obey him. Great. Now say it with me. His kingdom will be an everlasting kingdom, and all rulers will worship and obey him. Now that's a pretty short Bible verse, so I want you guys to take some time this week to really try and memorize it. And remember, God's kingdom will have no end. God is the king, and we are part of that kingdom. all the kingdoms that God talked about in Daniel's dream eventually ended. Even the biggest, most powerful, most amazing kingdoms all had an end. But God's kingdom, the kingdom that we're a part of, will never end. How awesome is that? I love you guys. Thanks for joining me for the verse of the week, and I'll see you next time.
Thanks, Mr. Wright, and we always love learning about the verse of the week. And now it's time for the animal of the week. Miss Laurel, let's go to you.
Hey everyone, Miss Laurel here, and welcome back to another Animal of the Week. This week's animal is another big cat and has spots. Do you know what it is? That's right, it's the leopard. Did you know that the leopard's spots are actually called rosettes? This is because they resemble roses. The leopard spots can be used to camouflage and hide from their prey. In fact, some leopard spots are so dark that they appear completely black. Leopards can be found in Africa and Asia, and just like the mountain lion, can live in the mountains, deserts, grasslands, or forest. Leopards are also really skilled climbers, so sometimes during the day they like to lay in the trees, or they bring their prey up to high places so it cannot be stolen from them. Now we know that the leopard in Daniel's dream, which lives in heaven and has 4 heads, is different than the leopard that we talked about today, which lives on earth. However, both the heavenly and the earthly leopard both recognize that Jesus is king. And we hope that as you learn about Daniel's dream, you can recognize too that Jesus is king. Thanks for joining me for another Animal of the Week. See you next time.
Thanks, Miss Laurel. We always love learning about the animal of the week. All right, guys, I know that this story might be a little confusing, so I encourage you guys to sit down with your parents and ask them what it means for Jesus to be the King of all kingdoms. And ask them, too, say, if you're scared by some of the animals in this story, say, Mom, Dad, why are some of these animals so scary? And Mom and Dad can have the opportunity to tell you that some of the kingdoms of the world have not treated Christians well over the years. But we as God's people are never afraid because we know that Jesus Christ is our King and He is an authority over everything, and He loves us and we love Him, and we get to live as His people in the world. We hope you guys take some time to read over this story with your family and think about what a privilege it is to be a part of God's people. We love you guys. Thanks for joining us this week, and we'll see you next time. And remember, be blessed and be a blessing.